Good evening, children. Today's topic of the day is fundamental right. Fundamental right, in other words, called as Maulik Adhikar. Fundamental right is included under Part 3rd of Indian Constitution. This is a right which has been borrowed from the US. The United States have borrowed Bill of Right from the Magna Carta. In my next class, I will explain you about Magna Carta in detail. In our original constitution, we have included 7 fundamental rights, and with time, it was found that right to property was quite conflicting. Therefore, with the 44th constitutional amendment, Article 31, right to property, has been abolished by the Janata government in the year 1978. Children, let us now see the different 6 fundamental rights of Indian Constitution. Right to equality is the first fundamental right from Article 14 to 18. It tries to establish equality in all the sense in the society, equality of opportunity, equal in front of law, no racial discrimination, etc. Because in India, Indian people have struggled a lot to get equality under the colonial government for a long period. Thus, the Constituent Assembly members have kept in mind to establish equality, and that is through right to equality. We have the second fundamental right, right to freedom, having another name, cluster of rights. What does this mean? This means there are many a kind of freedom that we get to exercise in a democratic country like India. It starts from Article 19 to 22. Right to freedom. There are various kind of freedom that we exercise, such as freedom of expression, freedom to assemble, freedom to move throughout the territory of our country. Therefore, correctly it has been said that right to freedom is a cluster of rights. Then we have right against exploitation. Children, once again, if you recall the past, the history, you will find that, that Indian people have been exploited on various grounds. Article 23 states that the children below the age of 14 should not be employed in any kind of hazardous work. Article 24 states that human trafficking is not allowed. Right to freedom of religion, various kind of freedom we exercise being in a country like India. We can follow any religion, we can preach any religion, we can propagate any religion. This is guaranteed under Article 25 to 28. We have cultural and educational rights under Article 29 and 30. That is, the minorities also gets the right to establish their own educational institutions. Then we have the most important fundamental right, that is right to constitutional remedies. Children, I have discussed at the beginning about right to property, which is no more a fundamental right, has been reduced to a constitutional right. Therefore, right to constitutional remedies is our sixth fundamental right included under Article 32. Correctly has been described by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the heart and soul of the Indian Constitution. This is that fundamental right without which the other fundamental rights becomes just useless. If any of our ever fundamental rights are violated, then children, we can approach to the Supreme Court or to the High Court. Therefore, This right to constitutional remedies under Article 32 is really very important. So, today's class I have talked about the six fundamental right of Indian Constitution as well as one of the fundamental right which was quite conflicting. There were conflict between judiciary and parliament from the case Golaknath case in the years 1967 and ended with the Keshav Nanda Bharati case of 1973. And finally, the Janata government has abolished this right to property. Children, have you enjoyed the class? And yes, I assure you, in the next class, I'll tell in detail about all these fundamental rights. With this, let me conclude the class. Thank you.